Hey, everybody, welcome back for another episode of Fix Your BS, where BS stands for belief systems or balance sheets or business systems, depending on where you are at in your life. We always look for great individuals that inspire us in different areas, especially the five core pillars that I talk about in my book, Fix Your BS. Those areas are relationships, business, health, belief, and finances. Guess what? If you have those five areas in your life playing at a high level, you have an amazing life. And today we have another absolutely amazing guest that we have found. We always search the internet looking for amazing people. He's all the way from Poland, believe it or not, from Poland. This is the first interview I've done via Zoom where somebody's coming from Poland. So we're going to welcome Benjamin Morone. He is the CEO and founder of Zabota.io. So Benjamin is an American entrepreneur and innovator based in Warsaw. After graduating from the university, Ben traveled across Europe and observed several issues within the recruitment industry, including their fee structures, guarantees of results, and their sources of talent. And Ben, I've been somebody that has actually dealt with that same thing, growing companies and helping people recruit different individuals into their companies, how they do it, why they do it, the companies they use. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say and how people that are listening to this episode that own a business or even work in a business, because I guarantee you both of them have experienced either the pain of recruiting the wrong people or the pain of just not knowing where to find somebody. So I'm looking forward to this, man. I'm really excited to have you here.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Greg. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So, tell everybody a little bit about your background, where you came from and how you got into this. I know it's a pretty interesting story. And, all the way from Poland, you're working on East Coast time, but I know it's like you said, 10 o'clock at night. So I love the commitment. I love I really appreciate you being here, staying up late for us. But yeah, tell us a little bit about your history, where you came from and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Montana. Grew up there, spent the majority of my life in Montana, and then got a scholarship for a school in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And so that wasn't my first time outside of Montana, but first time like living outside of Montana. I was always selling different like snacks, different drinks and beverages in high school. Always kind of a little bit entrepreneurial as I got probably into my teens. Wanted to start an online business, pretty much Googled in 2017, 2018, how to make money online, put it into YouTube. Found a bunch of people doing like e-commerce, drop shipping, ads agencies, all the kind of like normal things that you'd see courses sold on. Learned a little bit more about some of those techniques. Facebook back then, it was quite easy to zip code target, and the targeting was very, very easy. And so it was very easy to put in like $1 and get five out, right? And so I decided to start a little ads agency with one of my close friends, trying to basically get results for our e-commerce store that we had created. We kind of snowballed our profits from selling snacks and beverages into an e-commerce store. From there, we thought, okay, well, we need leads. We can't just build a website and expect it to come. It's not the field of dreams. These people aren't just going to show up, right? And so we were like, we need leads. We need more people for our for e-commerce store. Got into Facebook ads, a lot of self-education there, a lot of courses, YouTube, in addition to our current studies that we were doing. Uh, then we decided to do Facebook ads for private schools. We realized that, okay, like for our t-shirts, let's say they're $30 or $25, we really can't spend that much money to get a return. We have to really watch the numbers very, very closely. But what if we have a product that's $10,000, $15,000, $20,000? We could spend a fair amount of money up to get those results. So that's what we ended up doing. We started kind of doing Facebook ads for high schools, private high schools, getting a couple students for them, had some issues getting some case studies, some testimonials. So that business kind of was floundering along. I found myself in college basically just reaching out to people on LinkedIn, having conversations with them. And I was a blank slate at that point. I was just someone who was hungry, wanting to learn, reached out to people in commercial real estate, in medical device sales, just kind of all over, got a lot of internship opportunities, but I wanted to kind of run my own business. I just realized that I didn't really know anything yet. I was quite young at that point. I was hungry to learn and hungry to earn, but didn't really have any other types of skills besides those. And so at that point, I called a friend of mine and he was hiring for a sales team. This was right around when COVID was beginning. So I moved from Montana, moved to Minneapolis, St. Paul, moved into the dorm room, was there for 5 months, and then we all had to go home because of COVID. And so I was like, okay, well, do I want to go back to Montana and just be in my parents' house, which that's great. I can be in my parents' house, save some money, but uh, I wouldn't have like anything to do there. I wouldn't know. I'd be kind of be back to where I was in high school and with no real opportunities. And so my friend was hiring for the sales team. It was in Indianapolis. And so he's like, it's kind of remote right now. They want to make it more hybrid. And I looked at my bank account and I was like, well, flights really aren't that expensive between Indianapolis and Minneapolis. So why don't I go down there, try it out? It turned out to be a tech company where they were selling like LinkedIn automation software, lead generation software. This was like 2020-ish, 2021. Ended up joining there, stayed there for a year. And that's really where I learned how to sell and how to take multiple demos a day, learn the whole process. And then I wanted to kind of have my own business, but ended up just kind of going into another sales position and then traveling the world. From the world travels, I decided towards the end of school that I wanted to start my own business again, but I'd really have the full time to devote to it. When I was in school and it was remote, I was always working these multiple sales roles in addition to going to school full time. So it's kind of juggling the best of both worlds. Um, and I wanted to start some sort of agency or some sort of firm that I could provide value to local business and entrepreneurs. Coming back from college, I came back to Montana and I thought, well, I've used virtual assistants in past roles. So in the tech company, I was allowed a virtual assistant and it really helped me be focused during the workday. So then I could focus on school stuff, be in Zooms, be attentive in classes, and actually finish my degree and focus my time there while still maintaining earning income and almost treating my full-time job as a part-time job when I had an executive assistant, right? And so that's where I kind of got the first idea for, wow, this is very powerful remote talent.
Wow. Okay. So that was a lot to unpack. I was
A
trying to take
lot,
notes while
yeah.
we were going. So you mentioned you wanted to start your own business a few times, and that's something that it sounds like was kind of born into you or innate. Is there a time where you remember where you were like, I kind of like having control of my own schedule or my business's trajectory? Is there what's your earliest memory of that sort of feeling?
Yeah, my earliest memory was I wanted to always be a professional soccer player when I was a kid. So maybe like 12, 13 and below. I always wanted to play soccer at a high level, play in like Europe or play for like these big club teams. And I realized one day after going on YouTube that there were a bunch of these kids who are like 6 or 7, 5 years younger than me, who it was like next Ronaldo, next Messi, and they're like very, very skilled. And I realized, okay, I'm here in Billings, Montana. I'm probably not going to go super pro. But then I saw a contract that like Messi got or Ronaldo got, and it was hundreds of millions of dollars. And I was like, well, who paid him? Like, I didn't really have a concept of companies. I just thought they were like people. And I was like, wow, someone paid Ronaldo $200 million to come play a sport for them to watch. It was very simplistic thinking. Like, it doesn't work like that, right? But I thought, that's really interesting. And so I thought maybe I could get a job or a career in owning like a football club. And that's not the goal now, but that's the first time I really had thought about owning a company or I thought about the professional world
How
outside
old were
of
you about then?
hobbies. I would have been 11 or 12 at that point.
That's awesome. It's really
Yeah.
cool that you were thinking in terms of like, well, who paid them? Because I remember when Mark McGuire signed a contract with the Cardinals, and it was something, I don't remember, maybe 20 million, 30 million or something like that. And I remember making the comment to my dad, which was a terrible comment, but I was like, wow, I bet you his son has everything. And my dad literally turned to me,
Mm.
he's like, what are you missing out on? And I was like, that's a good point. Nothing. But I
Yeah.
remember at that moment thinking like, how does that work? Like, how can
Mhm.
someone earn 10, 20, 30 million? Then I remember a story that Shaq talked about. He's like, yeah, I'm rich, but the person signing my paycheck is wealthy. And then
Mm.
that's what I was like, I want to be wealthy. I want to have the
Yeah.
control. I want to have, the say as to who I'm telling that or who I'm offering things to, instead of being told what to do. So it's very interesting. And I think that can be learned, but I think for most people, I've done these interviews that it's kind of ingrained, and at some point in their life, it kind of came to the surface. Like, I want to own a business. And I used to do the same thing. I used to sit there and think, like, if I'm selling this candy bar for $1 and that, like, and I'm making money off of it, since whoever I bought it from had to make money off of it, like trying to
Mhm.
figure that whole concept out very simplistically. But, but yeah, knowing what I know now, owning a business, you mentioned a couple very important things. You were talking about leads. Um, there's 5 sections that we talk about when we work with businesses. We talk about how's your marketing and how's it generating leads. We talk about sales, when those leads come in, how are you converting those sales? We talk about the operations. Okay, well, what are the operational factors that are in place? What HR, who's actually controlling these things as they come through and making sure the operations are doing what they're supposed to do? And then the financials, where's the money actually going? And are you using it to the best of your ability? And what I found is when people come and work with me on the business side, they think they need more marketing and their financials are a wreck. They have no idea what their
Mm.
financials are. Those are the 2 things I see the most. Now, working with businesses and helping with recruiting and everything, is that something that you've dealt with? You're kind of the middleman. You're like, hey, I'm going to help
Mhm.
recruit, but the business might be a mess. How does that work? Is there something that you have to deal with in that interim?
When I first started, what I decided to do was basically build systems and processes in addition to bringing in that remote contractor. So I did my first couple placements and I realized, okay, I can find a wonderful candidate, but if I put them into a garbage pile or a flaming dumpster, nothing's going to happen. It's just going to get worse. I'm adding a person, it gets more complex. There's a bunch of different communication channels, and it doesn't actually give this person what they paid for or the desired result that they want. So I was like, well, how do I make this bulletproof? I should create standard operating procedures. I should create a blueprint for this person to follow, this new remote contractor, kind of work with the business owner a little bit in the beginning. As our kind of ICP, ideal client profiles changed, we were working with a little bit larger companies. It's not always solo founders as it used to be, but we still do work with solo founders. And that systems and processes and making sure just everything is complete and blueprinted out is super, super important. It's interesting that you bring up the marketing and the financials conundrum, because it's like you can't just keep pouring water into this leaky bucket that has, a bunch of holes. You need to know where every dollar is going. You need to know the exact amounts on every area in your business. And for small business owners, a lot of them are almost waiting for someone to be that person that will tell them, hey, these financials aren't right. And they may say, I'm not a numbers person. But if you're a solo founder, co-founder, whatever it is on an executive team, there's nobody else. You're in that driver's seat. You have to know those numbers, even if you're not good with math or whatever excuse you want to give. You have to know that. And I've been through that myself, where I've been like, how am I generating this revenue? But then I look at the end of the month and there's just not as much as I thought there would be. But then I look at the sales or look at the marketing and like it's not adding up, when really I needed to just focus on the financials first before thinking, oh, leads are my problem. So it's very interesting you bring that up.
Yeah, and I think every person that has started a business has gone through that process, because it's almost like a refining process of figuring
Mhm.
out, where is the issue. And it's interesting to me that a majority of business owners that come to me for business consulting, I work a lot with regional, smaller businesses, 10 to 20 employees that really, maybe 5 to 20 employees, um, but really they're like, oh, I need more marketing. And then we look at it and I'm like, okay, let's say we did more marketing, we improved it, and we generated, 50% more leads than you're currently doing. Where are you going to be able to process those leads? Are you going to be able to follow up with them? Are you going to be able to sell to them? Are you going to be able to deliver to them? Because most of the time they don't have the operations. And I love that you mentioned SOPs. That's the hardest part for most practices or businesses or small businesses, is sitting down to take the time. And that's what they talk about, working on the business. And so kudos to you for sitting down and saying, what are the processes that generate the best returns and the best outcomes? And what are the processes that don't, so we can alter and eliminate those if
Mhm.
need be? And that's just really cool. So what brought you to that conclusion? Was there working for the other companies that that brought you to that? Yeah, I need to really operationalize this thing.
I think it was just the first couple placements that I had done, and even inside of my own little like agency or solo founder company, I didn't quite need like an executive assistant or virtual assistant at that time, but I was still hiring it into my own business to figure out, okay, what's going to happen? What are the pros, the cons? Like, where are the pitfalls in utilizing remote talent? And so I was kind of like testing it all inside of my own business before I was massively approaching marketing and sales and trying to sell everyone on this is the best thing that has been since sliced bread. Like I wanted to make sure everything was bulletproof first. And so I think it was just working with a couple clients and them being close friends of mine and realizing it was like 95% effective, 90% effective, but there was just something that was like missing. And then talking with the virtual assistant, talking with the business owner and asking for feedback on both parts and not just saying, oh, business owner, what went wrong? Because on the virtual assistant side, the remote talent side, what I'd find is maybe the onboarding wasn't right. And the business owner was really good and really hand holding right in the beginning. But after 5 days of employment, the business owner just like decided not to interact with them as much anymore. And so I really had to kind of interact with all of the parties involved to refine that process. I couldn't just go, hey, client who paid me money, what was the feedback points? I needed to talk with the remote talent as well to really get the whole picture.
I love that because getting opinions or information from one side doesn't tell you the whole story. They're going to tell you their perspective. That's so true. That relates to so many aspects in business, making sure you get the complete picture before you move forward. That's why, statistical data is so important. And you mentioned that earlier in the beginning, knowing your numbers and knowing the data points, watching the numbers. Um, it doesn't matter if you're good at math or not. If you're going to run a business, you have to be good at numbers. And is that something you put into place when you're talking about placement of individuals, which you need to tell me a little bit more about the actual
Mhm.
Zabota so people
Yeah.
know if it relates to them and if they can utilize this service for their business or if they, can utilize something that you offer.
Yeah, so with Zabota, what we're doing is we're hiring remote talent from Latin America and Central and Eastern Europe for small business owners, startups, growing companies. So helping them save 50 to 60% on payroll by taking advantage of different areas across the globe that speak English and are very skilled and educated in implementing this workforce into their company. We've been running it for about a year and a half plus now, working mainly with those smaller businesses and startups in the IT world, in healthcare and financial, grant writing companies, agencies, media, marketing, kind of all over the place with the industry. We're pretty industry agnostic when it comes to that.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So what are some of the biggest aha moments that you've had in either starting a business, growing a business, or, really, was there moments where you're like, I wish I would have known that. Or you had this aha, you're like, oh, that's the way that works. Is there anything that jumps out in your mind?
Well, the biggest one, or not the biggest one, but one of the massive ones was definitely when I had made my first like full-time hire, because it didn't work out successfully, right?
Hmm.
I went through and I didn't work out well with that individual. And as the business owner, I had to sit down and think, okay, like why didn't this work? And where did I fail this person I brought on? It doesn't matter if they were really good, as good as they said they were, or they weren't quite hitting the mark. Where did I fail on onboarding this person? Where did I fail in not figuring out if they were the right fit for my company? So that first kind of hire was very important. When I got it right the second time, I took a little bit more time. It has been life-changing in the amount of time that I've gotten back. So something that I do is I employ time tracking and I focus and look at my time, how I spend it daily. And I was noticing that I'm spending, 110 hours a month on recruitment activities instead of working like on the business, right? Using that terminology of working on the business, thinking about marketing, sales, lead, financials. I was basically just now I'm a freelance recruiter grinding all the time, right? And I was trying to escape from some of the fulfillment and so once I made the right hire, I got 110 hours back, pretty much about 100, because I still have to manage and interact with that individual. It's never, none. They're never completely hands off. It kind of changes the role that you're working with. But that mindset shift was insane, and that's the mindset shift I like bringing to solo founders, small business entrepreneurs, that they realize, okay, I don't need to work a 24/7 job that I've created for myself. No one gets into small business or entrepreneurship to swap the 9 to 5 for a 24/7. Nobody wants to do that, right? But they
Right.
end up doing that in the beginning because sometimes you have to. You have to be the person who's putting in that work. But as you scale, you need the scale of multiple people working, spending 8 hours a day to be able to really grow to that next level.
Yeah, and that's the thing is most small business owners, they know how to do a thing. They know how to be
Hmm.
an electrician or a plumber or a recruiting agent or a
Hmm.
doctor or whatever. They know how to do a thing. And then they start their own business because they want to have control of their schedule. And what they don't realize is that knowing how to do that thing has nothing to do with owning a business. And so they get trapped in the business. And so one of the things that we do in my business coaching world is we help people get untrapped. We help them implement those systems into their business, the marketing, sales, operations, HR, and financial things that they should put into place in order to give themselves more free time. And I dealt with that too. I'm a chiropractor by trade. And
Hmm.
originally, when as a chiropractor, I would be like, wait, if I want to take a vacation, the whole place has to shut down. Like I'm the only one producing anything. So it's reliant upon me. And I was like, that's not good. So after a while, I figured out how to implement actual business structure. So very, very, very smart on your end. And I love the fact that you looked at a process and you said, that didn't turn out like I had expected or wanted. What can I do better? Instead of blaming. And I love that you took responsibility for that. So well done.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So as far as into the future, looking ahead, big plans that you might have, where are you headed, and really what things are you putting into place in order to achieve those goals? Because that's what most people tune into this podcast for, is to say, like, what can I implement in my life in order to improve either my business or my personal life or my health, my beliefs, whatever, my finances. Anything that you can say to that point.
Yeah, so as far as like what's next, we're implementing more tech and more kind of recruitment tools and systems that we're building internally. We may release them to the public, but for someone who is, I think we'll have to edit this because I've totally just blanked. I'm sorry, Greg. It's the end of the
No,
day.
you're all right. You're good. You're good.
Could you ask the question again and we'll just run it again?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like into the future, where do you see your company going? Where do you see it heading? And like what goals do you have set that you are putting actions towards? And what are those actions really?
Yeah, so as far as kind of the next step for Zabota, we're generating a lot of kind of pre-interest in some of these recruitment tools that we've been creating. Maybe launching a SaaS platform with some of these tools to make recruiters' lives a lot easier and still maintain a good relationship with the candidates. We don't want to create like AI interviewers. I don't think anyone would enjoy being interviewed by like an AI bot. And so we want to actually have like vetting tools. We want to have systems and processes that we can give to recruiters in the market that will help and improve them. I think a big focus for the rest of this year is definitely YouTube. If
Oh,
I have one piece of advice, and I know similar guests have given this advice about YouTube, it truly is a search engine. And when someone sees you on YouTube or they search some specific thing, they just enter the influence of your company. And if they go on your YouTube and they see you have consistent content and you're saying things that are valuable and they're key points that they can take away and put into their business, much like your listeners of this podcast, they're going to keep coming back for more. And whenever they want to work with you, if it's marketing services or whatever it may be, they're going to be like, oh, I know this person. They're connected to chiropractic or whatever it is, and they're going to go to you and purchase from you. And so it's kind of this frequency that you can create with YouTube. And the amount of leads that I've gotten from YouTube, despite having a fairly small presence, we don't have tons of subscribers. We don't have tons of videos, maybe about 100 videos at this point. Um, it's been very impressive, and it allows you to take objections that you would get on sales calls and address them in the YouTube videos. So you can send them before calls, and you can have those objections be handled before someone actually even gets on the call with you.
And that is so true. And people don't realize this. They get caught up in, and I did the same thing. So I'm not blaming anybody. And
Mhm.
I've dealt with a lot of business owners and a lot of people who ask me questions online, where they get caught up in the likes, the shares, the subscribers. And I remember this video that Gary Vee did. He was up on stage and somebody said, "Hey, can you do a live stream with me?" And he's like, "Yeah, pull it up." So the guy does a live stream on Instagram or something, and like three people were on it. And the guy was like embarrassed, like, I know there's only three people. And Gary Vee's like, "Man, you serve and add value to those three people. Like you have, like your life depends on it. And by adding value and serving them, that three people will turn into 100 and that'll turn into two and
Mhm.
turn into five." And he's like, "But focus on the value and serving." And I love that you said that. Like putting the YouTube videos on there is not about just putting YouTube videos. It's like, how can we add value to the end user and give them real information? So then you set yourself up as the expert in that field or in that area. And that is so important. So really it's consistency, number one, but number two is adding value and not worrying about the metrics as much in the beginning of, oh, well, it didn't go viral, which is a very small percentage of videos that go viral anyway. It has to
Correct.
be
Yeah.
really some crazy something that happens. But it doesn't matter if it doesn't go viral. You should put it out there as if you're talking to somebody who's asking you a question about your business, because number one, it's search engine. Number two, it adds value to them, and you might be the expert in their eyes because you put a video out there. So everyone listening to this needs to do that for their business or their whatever niche they're in.
Correct. I agree with you. It's super powerful, and it's one of the main platforms that I'm focusing on for sure. Just because even when people just Google you, YouTube's like always like the second or third result, maybe right behind LinkedIn. And so it's
Yeah.
super powerful.
That's how we were talking about Levi before, in the real
Hmm.
estate game in Texas. That's how he grew his following, was simply by YouTube videos. That's the only thing he focused on
Hmm.
because it's the number two search engine in the world right now. Number one is Google, number two is YouTube, and people don't realize that it's a search engine more than a platform that you put videos on.
Correct. And also if someone's apprehensive to kind of getting on camera, or they don't want to spend too much time on content creation, it's much easier to sit down and do the time and think about how to plan out a long form YouTube video than think about, okay, what's going to keep people interested for 30 seconds on TikTok. I struggle with short form content and making like snappy hooks and snappy editing and all these different types of things. That just isn't my kind of domain of expertise. When I can take the time and really put the knowledge into the YouTube video, make it long form, a lot more relaxed when I'm on camera. I don't feel like someone's holding a gun against me to shoot a video, like I don't feel a pressure. I can actually just add the value, add something like I would be talking about on a consulting call, but in that video format, it's even better than a consulting call because I'm not just talking to one person. I'm talking to infinite amount of people on a long time horizon.
Man, that is so true. I love that. And it's evergreen, man. It just sits out there.
Yeah.
It's just something you can put out there and somebody might find it 2 years from now. We started doing I released Fix Your BS in January of last year. So it's been about a year and
Mhm.
I don't know, a year and a half. We started doing videos about then, and we get people that reach out or comment on videos that were a year ago. And
Yeah.
you don't realize that that stuff is not just for now. It's building this repertoire of videos and content and information that's out there that people can search through. And the more of that you have over time, it's not a right now deal. It's a building over time. So the more hours they spend with you, the more time they spend with you, the more they will fall in love with you and look at you as the expert. And so that's the value there. So how can people, hook up with you or find you so where they can learn more about you and the information that you've shared? I know we found each other on LinkedIn, but tell them a little bit more about you, where they can come and find out more about you.
Yeah, so for our company, Zabota.io, Zabota.io. Twitter, Benjamin Morone, my last name, Morone. LinkedIn, same, you can search there. And then for YouTube, you can search Zabota, it'll come up, but it's Zabota Staffing is the handle on YouTube.
That's awesome, man. And any final like words of wisdom that you would give people that they can put into their either their daily or weekly or their business routine to help them just improve the quality of their life, improve the quality of their time.
Yeah, this is one that I have overlooked for an embarrassing amount of time, but it is consistency is going to win the race. Rome was not built in a day, but they were laying bricks each day. And if you try to run your business or run whatever progress you're trying to make in your life based off of your energy and how you feel that day, you're not going to win. Everyone has bad days, but if you can just at least work on the business a little bit, if you can at least just go to the gym, or you can at least make progress in some form or fashion, it doesn't need to be 10 hours every single day, 7 days a week. But if you're just consistently doing it each day, you'll reach that goal. For a long, long time, I tried to just rely on energy levels and how I was feeling. And it wasn't until I was consistent for a long time that things actually started to work out in the favor and the way that I had wanted them to and had been working so hard for.
And that is so true. I know I feel the same way with the amount of time I spent pushing. So there's this, grind mentality that a lot of
Mhm,
entrepreneurs or business owners have. I got to grind. I got to get up and rise and grind and push.
mhm.
And you're like, well, yes, you want to be productive and yes, you want to be active and you can't just sit around and do nothing. But you also don't want to cross the line into anxiety and worry and fear and all these things as you push, like, how come I'm not there yet? I should be there. It's like, man, if you're building a business, you should know what the exit of that business looks like for you. What does the end look like? And then trace yourself back, just like you are going to go on a trip. You know where the destination is. You know some of the things that you are going to do when you get there. But you don't worry about while you're in the plane, like, how come I'm not there yet? Like, there's a process that occurs.
Yeah.
So just enjoy that process and be like, there's an expectation of that destination of what's going to happen. And, but it doesn't mean you can't enjoy the process of getting there as well. And so that's so true. Consistency is way better. Take that next step, take that next step and just keep moving forward. And it took me an embarrassing long time to realize or to admit that I had to learn how to find happiness in the movement toward the goal and
Mhm.
not the goal itself. And that was extremely hard for me to understand. So
It
love what you
definitely.
said there, man.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
So everybody listening, you can find more about Benjamin. You can look in the comments below. We have everything posted, all of his links. You'll be able to click on any of those links and find him. Learn more about Zabota, especially if you're looking for recruiting, talent. Make sure that you check him out. He's got some featured things as well that we'll put in. There's some featured articles that you can read a little bit more about Benjamin Morone and what he's doing with Zabota. But I really appreciate you and the insights on the business side because there's so many people listening to this podcast that deal with that daily, push that they expect things to happen now when in reality it's that consistency over time.
Perfect. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening to another episode. Like I always say, you need to share this out with your friends because there are people that need this information that guess what? They don't have it. And you know why? It's because you didn't share it. That's how we reach more people. This is a free service. We took our time. We always do this. Benjamin, thank you for being here. I really appreciate taking the time to give some information so that you can win in your life on your terms, which is what our entire goal is. Fix Your BS is all about creating your dream life on your terms. And we find people that are already doing it to give you the tips, the strategies to make sure that you can live that dream life that you are trying to put yourself into. So thanks for listening again. I'm Dr. Greg Persley, also known as Dr. G with Fix Your BS. And until next time, work towards implementing these things. Take action on building your dream life on your terms. See you at the next episode.